You and Chris are going to be in here talking about God knows what.
Hey, you made it to episode 2. We're so proud of you.
What's happening?
What's going on, man? So, what you got over there?
Well, let's just let the imagination run wild.
All right.
Yeah, baby.
Only the best Dr. Pepper Zero for us.
You jerk. You think a good friend would have a beer, but he doesn't. We have Dr. Pepper Zero.
We have Dr. Pepper Zero in here. You know why? Because we're working, man. Come on. Oh, you hear that, Viz?
That's awesome.
Yeah, a little carbonation, so we burping the whole episode. Okay. Hey, dude, what's happening?
What's up, brother?
Hi. Just for you folks tuning in here, welcome to the Retro Show podcast. The Retro Show podcast is a look back at all things Gen X and growing up in the 70s and 80s and just how awesome it was to be a kid at that time. And maybe you weren't. Maybe you're just interested in listening to two guys of our advancing age talk about how much fun we had in the 70s and 80s.
Well, I'll tell everybody out there that's way younger than us, same thing my mother told me when she told me her knee hurt. And I said, that's what happens when you get old. You just keep breathing in and out, son. You'll get there one day. And she was right.
And she was right.
Yep.
But anyway, just to let you know a little bit about this podcast, if you go to retroshow.net, you'll be able to access all of our social media, and that's where we want you to join in on the conversation and talk with us. We're going to have a link to Facebook there, and so you guys can come aboard and just join in the conversation of like show topics and your opinions on.
We don't care about their opinions.
You're not supposed to tell them that.
Oh.
You're supposed to act like you care, man. Come on. It's like
I gotta be me.
We really do love you. But anyway, it's basically just looking back, movies, music, pop culture of that time, and in today's show, what is going to be fun. I'm just going to go ahead and preface it for you, and the reason is because we're fun.
Yeah.
We're a whole lot of fun, folks. Today's topic, and we'll eventually get to the topic.
Someday.
We always usually get there. The year 1981, Chris. Go back with me to 1981.
Okay.
My hairstyle at the time could best be described as a blow-dried, hair-sprayed football helmet.
It was hilarious.
It was blow-dried.
But he was rocking back then, baby.
Oh, listen, man.
But you look at it now, and it's like, oh, what were you thinking, man?
I don't know if you saw your picture on there or not, but whatever.
Make room for that fat guy. One fat guy coming through.
I was just talking about your hair. Whatever, Prince Valiant, but
My mom, man. God bless her.
Okay.
The bowl cut was in.
What did Linda do to you?
Well, she wouldn't cut it, but she'd always go to the beautician. And I went to the beautician because my mom was a licensed beautician, and she knew all the beauticians. She actually was a school teacher, but she had her beauty license. But she'd go and tell them exactly how she wanted it cut. And that, that's why I ended up with the cut I had.
So here's my story about Mom cutting my hair once. Mom decided I needed a trim. But for whatever reason, we couldn't get into the barbershop. And I used to go to a barbershop here in town. What was the name? Was it the Country Gentleman or Gentleman's Choice?
It was a Country Gentleman.
Yeah, the Country Gentleman is where I used to go get my hair cut because that's where Dad got his hair cut.
Yep.
So for some reason, I couldn't make it. And Mom decided she needed to trim my hair up with, like the junk drawer scissors. you know what the junk drawer scissors are, right? They were used for everything.
Cut chicken, at your house, cow tongue,
dried poop off the dog's rear end, everything. And so, and otter, the tops off of Otter Pops, You
Yeah,
know,
oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that you would cut the corners of your mouth on.
Yeah.
But she decided she was going to trim my hair up. So she did, and not knowing that school pictures were like 2 days later. So here it is. Let's flash forward like 20 years. And Mom, I'm saying that I need a haircut. And she says, well, I can cut your hair. I said, you know what? I got a whole bunch of third grade pictures says you can't. And then, she threatened to, whoop me.
How old were you in 81?
14 and 15. I have a June birthday.
That's right. I was 13 and 14.
Yeah, it's because you have a May birthday.
I do.
Oh, you just had one, didn't you?
Yep.
Oh, so it's not every day a man turns 29.
I know, right?
And that was a long time ago for you. So,
Holding up well, baby. Holding up well.
So, so I was 14-15 years old in 81.
Dude, I didn't want to do the math.
Formative, yeah. It was a very formative year. It was formative years musically. I would say my formative music years probably start around 78. And now you had an older brother to help you out.
I did.
I did,
and that Lord knows.
I had older sisters, and that was no help at all. So, they were listening to like the best of bread, which, if you like bread, that's great. Yeah. But it's, it wasn't my jam at that time. So I would say probably starting in about 78, I got a little radio and I would listen to it at night, turned down low where my parents couldn't hear me listening to it. KKYK. And KAAY on the AM side.
Yep.
But yeah, they had, but I started listening for the Dr. Demento show, which would come on like Sunday nights.
Dude, I missed that too. That was so much fun to listen to.
But the old Dr. Demento show. And, first time I ever heard some Weird Al Yankovic, was on there. And you know what his first hit was?
I do, but I can't remember.
My Bologna.
I don't remember that.
And
I do remember it, but I don't. I couldn't remember the punchline.
And another one rides the bus. Another one rides the bus. Hey, he's gonna sit by you. Another one rides the bus. How?
The only thing I can remember from Dr. Demento that really sticks out in my head is Taekwondo Leap. Boot to the head.
Boot to that. Shook. Ed Gruberman, approach so that you may learn. Boot to the head. But yeah, that was
hilarious.
Anyway, 1981. Musically, I limited this to 5, and I know that was not fair.
It's really not.
It's really not fair because I'm going to tell you right now, when I started looking at the list of albums that were released in 1981, it is like...
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, the amount of musical goodness that was out. Now, I want to tell you how I approached this list. Okay, so I did it like 15-year-old me would have done it back then.
That's kind of what I did. I mean, I picked out the most influential albums on me at the time.
That's what now, if I were making the list now, I would have some of these in here. Mm-hmm. Not all of them.
Me too.
Not all of them at all.
Me
but
too.
A lot of them I still would. But every one of these at the time that I had was on an 8-track. Remember
The
my
Granada.
You remember my GE 8-track player?
Yep.
That we would we'd play basketball at my house because I had a basketball goal. One of these days we're going to tell the Feehan falling off of the wall story, but not today because we got to make people want to tune in later. It's called Whetting Their Appetite. Anyway, actually, I got
all
two
you folks
stories.
out there listening. We had an awesome childhood.
We had a fantastic childhood and some funny stories to tell. But anyway, I did it like 15-year-old me was making the list. So I literally did it like that.
So this is what, last time you made me go all of mine first and then you went. But
Right.
I think let's just go point, counterpoint.
Let's start out, okay, you're number 5, and then I'll do my number 5, and we'll volleyball back and forth.
So my number 5 would be most definitely ZZ Top, El Loco.
Oh, dude, that almost made the list.
Well, I'm sorry.
That almost made the list, but then I realized at 15, for some reason, I wasn't listening to that.
But I was. I mean, I of course,
But
I had an older brother.
You had an older brother.
And ZZ Top resonated with me at an early age.
Yeah.
I just love ZZ Top. I still love ZZ Top.
I love ZZ Top, and that El Loco album, it
great.
holds up so good today.
Great.
just a sip of Diet Dr.
I
Pepper.
mean, it's got some songs on there that Butch wants to keep this PG, but they were very memorable. And
They were memorable, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
very
yes, they were.
at that age.
Yes, they were. Which, the whole Beavis and Butthead mentality that we had at the time just fed right into.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, so El Loco is your number 5, and it is a great album. ZZ Top, one of the best live bands I have ever seen.
I have never seen a band that radiated cool.
Just
They radiate cool. I mean,
they do, still to this day. Billy Gibbons, I'll stop and watch him do these interviews, and the guy's got to be.
He's pushing 80.
He's pushing 80. If he's not 80 already.
Dusty Hill, I mean, he passed. And
Yeah.
I think he was 74.
Yeah,
Went home for a hip surgery and died.
I know.
But didn't even have the surgery and died.
Well, and you and I had tickets to go to.
Yep.
We had a scheduled concert, and then he got ill, had the surgery, and passed away like
I don't think
a
he had
few
the
days.
surgery.
Yeah, well, it's
I
like a
think
few
it was
days before the show,
before-
he passed away.
Yep.
And we I guess we ain't going, which was
true
tragic.
story.
It was tragic. But yeah, that's a great album. El Loco is your number 5. Okay, here's my number 5. Wild Eyed Southern Boys, 38 Special.
It's on the list.
Isn't that a great album?
Dude, it's one of my favorites.
I still will track that today, start to finish, and listen to that whole.
I tell people all the time, we went to see Molly Hatchet in 1980.
81 with 38
and
Special.
38 Special opening.
Yep.
And then we went back the next year and saw 38 Special with Molly Hatchet opening.
Because and from then on 38 Special headline, and they would come through, folks. Just to let you know, we live in Central Arkansas. 38 Special would come, and at the time our venue was Barton Coliseum, which may be the worst acoustics ever.
Yeah, but a great place to see it.
And a great place to see a concert, and no air conditioning. If it was a summertime show, you were sweating like a rat eating onions, man. But man, it was such good memories. Some of my best memories of a concert
Mine too.
were at that venue. And so, 38 Special would come out every 6 months, and every time I would get a ticket and go.
I think I've seen them 9 times.
Oh, I think
or
so.
10 times.
Yeah.
I saw them down on the river not too long ago.
You and I did. Remember they opened for ZZ Top
That's what it was. Yeah, that's
when
right.
we saw them.
That's
It was
right.
Riverfest in 2008. We're just two old guys just reminiscing over
I
here.
partied with the keyboard player at a duck club one night. He's a pretty cool dude.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
There may be a story later, kids. Story time with Uncle Chris.
Well, that was, yeah.
Well, now, kids.
Let me tell you something, guys. That Auburn and Alabama rivalry is a true deal. I watched it in action. Well, it's a story for another time, but that was unbelievable.
So, Wild Eyed Southern Boys, great. Some of my favorite tracks, Hitting and Running. A lot of, of course, you got your hits
Right.
off of there, like Hold On Loosely. Fantasy Girl is one that ended up kind of being, it was never released as a single, I don't think, but it was something
Now,
that just
that's going to
hit.
be your error. I mean, your forte more than me is if it was released on a single.
Right.
I don't remember that, but it is a great.
It's a great
tune.
song.
Is Robin Hood on that album?
No, that's on Rockin' Into the Night.
Yeah, oh
Robin
my
Hood
God.
is a great instrumental, by the way, guys.
It's unbelievable.
Okay,
in concert.
kids, your homework tonight. Let's go on YouTube. Look up 38 Special, Robin Hood. Great instrumental.
And picture this: you're at a concert in 1981, and they say they're going to play this song, and then this huge backdrop falls from the top of the stage.
Yeah.
It looks like Sherwood Forest.
And
One of the coolest experiences in a concert I've ever had. And I've been to a ton of concerts, and that sticks out in my head. It always has. Love that song.
Great song.
Yep.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 would probably be Wild Eyed Southern Boys. My 38
We can just keep talking about it because that is such a great. 38 Special, for you guys don't know, they took. If you go back and listen to it, it's kind of genius because they took the Southern rock sound, but they made it very accessible. I think very radio friendly, you could say.
It did, yeah.
It's
exactly.
very radio friendly, but it was still really well done music. So, yeah, they had a lot of good albums back in the late 70s and early 80s. Really did. So that's your number 4.
Yep.
That was my number 5. My number 4, Diary of a Madman, Ozzy Osbourne.
It's on the list.
I think it starts with Over the Mountain, which was, now you guys, he had released Blizzard of Oz in 80.
Let me just stop you right there. That's my number 3.
That's your number 3?
Yeah.
Okay. So just so we know. I think we're going to have a lot of the same stuff
we will.
on here, and it's going to be interesting to see. But Diary of a Madman, first of all, here's the funny thing about Ozzy. Okay, and we can go deep in the weeds. As a matter of fact, I've got a show idea for us to do that actually has me going very deep in the weeds on the breakup of Black Sabbath and how both bands' acts, Ozzy and Black Sabbath, would not be around today were it not for them splitting at the time.
Probably not. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Because I think what they did musically apart from each other was absolutely amazing. But anyway, we won't get into that right now, but that's another show, kids. But yes, Diary of a Madman was fantastic. It had Randy Rhoads on there. And let me tell you my Randy Rhoads story. I got to see Randy Rhoads. Were you at that Pine Bluff show?
Nope.
You weren't? Dang,
I
man.
never saw Ozzy in concert.
So it was 1982, and they were touring and supporting this album. And UFO was the opening act, which, by the way, I have come to appreciate UFO as one of the best hard rock blues-based rock bands from England in the late 70s, early 80s. Kids, it's another assignment. UFO. But they were the opening act. But I got to see Randy Rhoads play 2 weeks before he passed away. And it was 15-year-old me was just sitting there just with going, that was just amazing.
I watched a documentary on him not too long ago.
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to me, I had no idea. Of course, Van Halen was a huge impact on both of our lives.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie to you, but Eddie Van Halen was it. But Randy Rhoads was fantastic guitar player, and at the time they were both in L.A. They were competing for the number one spot as guitarist. And do you know what Randy Rhoads? He's a founding member of what band?
Quiet Riot.
Quiet Riot.
Yep.
And he left Quiet Riot to go be Ozzy's guitar player.
Yeah.
And another interesting side note to that audition, on this documentary that I watched, they said that this guy that knew Ozzy said, "You need this guy." And he said, "Well, I've got a list of guitars." He goes, "No, he is the list. You need this guy." And he shows up to this audition with a little practice amp. And they said, "Well, you can just start warming up." And he goes in, he just starts running through scales on this little bitty practice amp. Everybody else has showed up as big Marshall stacks and all this. He's in there just warming up on his scales, and the guy comes in and says, "That's it, you're done." And he's like, "But I haven't even played yet." He goes, "No, I don't think you understand. You have the job."
You had the job. Yeah. He was just that good. And really if you go back and listen now to the stuff that he did and the musicality to it, as someone, you and I both have some musical training, that you can go back and listen to the music, to just the musicality, and you've heard guitar players before, and then there was Randy Rhoads, and it was it was just an amazing album.
It's really sad that he passed away early.
Yeah. So, and it's also, that's your number 3 as well.
Yes.
So, okay. So moving on to my number 3, and I bet I step on your toes on this one too. Rush, Moving Pictures.
It's okay. It's on the list.
It's on the list. Great album. You know what? We're going to let you expound on Moving Pictures and move on to number 2.
And I think we've mentioned my older brother. I've got a brother I have one brother. That's it. He was 4 years older than me.
You know why? Because they didn't want 3.
He actually graduated in 1981, and man, he was really into music in the 70s.
Yeah, he was.
And Rush, I was turned on to Rush at an early age, and I'm a vocalist. I sang choir all the way through school just because I like to sing. Even when choir was, kind of looked down upon, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I could give a rat's.
Hi, band kid. Hello. Yeah.
I just didn't care because I liked to sing, and Geddy Lee's voice just captivated me.
Yeah, it is. It's very distinctive. You cannot listen to a Rush song and mistake it for anything else other than Rush.
And then you have the drummer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that guy. So I'm going to chase a rabbit right now, and I've got to tell you a Rush concert story. So here it is. It's 2015. So me, Chris, over here. And then two of our best friends that we grew up. And we're just going to go ahead and tell you right now, it's the Clegg brothers.
The twins.
They're twins, Mark and Mike. Okay, so it is the four of us going, and we're meeting my brother in Tulsa.
Identical
twins.
Act nothing alike.
Act nothing alike. And we knew them so well. And obviously, when they were younger, they looked a lot alike. Except I could tell them apart on the phone.
I could too, man.
You know, because they sounded just totally different than each other. But anyway, so we're going to this concert.
You're going to hear a lot about the Clegg twins.
You're going to hear a lot about the Clegg. On this podcast, we're going to get them on here one time.
Yeah.
Just so you can experience Mike Clegg. Anyway, well... But anyway, so
love you, brother.
We do love you, man. And so we are loading up to go to this concert. Well, Mark is riding with you.
Yes.
Okay, so my job is I have to go by and pick up Mike. So I go to Mike's house. I've got my stuff in the back, and we're driving in my wife's SUV. And so he comes out, and he's got a CPAP under one arm, his bag of medication, and looks at me seriously and says, "Man, this is going to be just like when we were kids." I went, No, it's not. You and I both have CPAPs. And any drugs that we are taking are to lower cholesterol.
Because if it had been like when we was kids, it's a lot different bag of drugs.
And I said, if we go anywhere for an after party, which we did, it would be Waffle House. And it was.
Did we go to Waffle House?
We ended up going to Waffle House after the show.
I really enjoyed meeting your brother too, man.
Yeah,
He was awesome.
yeah, he's a pretty cool guy, for an older brother that looks 10 years younger than me. I'm about to slap him.
Good looking
upside
dude.
the head. I know. I don't know.
Not in a gay way, like Vikings. Good
Like Viking. Okay. Look up that reference, children. But yeah, like Vikings. But yeah, it was a great show. And so that's our Rush story on there. And so Moving Pictures is your, what number?
Where am I at?
Well, we're at number 2 now?
Oh, yeah, number 2.
It was number 2? Okay.
Yeah, it was my number 2.
It was your number 2. So let's go ahead, and we've talked about Rush. Let's talk about my number 2. Now, realize that I did this as 15-year-old me. Okay? I did this as 15-year-old me and what I was listening to at the time. And so I have to say that my number 2 on this list is Styx Paradise Theater.
Yeah, who turned you on to that?
You turned me on to Styx. Thank you very well. Monty did, actually, because we were riding around in his Toyota 4Runner.
Toyota Land Cruiser.
Oh, Land Cruiser. That's right.
It was Dad's Toyota Land Cruiser. Make no mistake about that. Dad would correct
Dad's.
you if he was here. God, that was my Toyota.
That was my Toyota Land Cruiser. I got so many Jay Curtis stories that are going to come out in this podcast, too, from my perspective, and they're hilarious. But anyway, so he was riding us around one day through Treasure Hills, which is the neighborhood where we lived and grew up together.
Jensen speakers, baby.
And he had those Jensen 6x9s back there in a homemade wood box or something that was.
He
mounted
were just
them.
laying on the floor.
Oh, that was laying on the floor. Well, they're magnetized, so they stick.
It'll
and
be
so
all right.
it's going to be okay. And he was playing at the time. It was the Pieces of 8 album.
Yep, which was a great album.
One of the there's 2 what I consider landmark Styx albums that I will always have, and one is Grand Illusion, and the other one is Pieces of 8. But on my list for 1981, Styx Paradise Theater, they had kind of started to go Broadway at this point. A little bit. Some of the songs some of Dennis's songs were starting to.
We didn't do that damn Kilroy's here.
Yeah.
Crap. That's when, dude, I wrote Styx off after that. I couldn't listen to him anymore.
But all opinions on here are those of of me and Chris. We had so Styx Paradise Theater was my number 2. I'm betting we have the same number 1.
I bet we don't.
We don't?
I bet we don't.
Well, maybe not. That'd be a first. So, why don't you go ahead and share your number?
No. I want to hear your number 1. Nice try.
Van Halen, Fair Warning.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come up. Not one of my favorite Van Halen albums.
Really? Because it may be one of my favorites.
I like it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think we discussed earlier my favorite of all time Van Halen albums. And please, audience, Do not get me wrong. I love Van Halen, but I had an album that was really more influential on me than Van Halen Fair Warning. And we sat around and waited for the next Van Halen album like two kids waiting on the secret decoder ring.
Oh, yeah. It was like, it's coming out next month.
Yeah. Couldn't wait. Because back then there was a magazine called Cream.
And Hit Parader.
Cream
and Hit Parader. And Circus.
Circus. I forgot about Circus. But they would have life-size posters of not life-size, but like centerfolds of rock stars. And my brother had David Lee Roth on his wall. And that Last Act of Defiance poster, you remember that?
Yeah.
The mouse giving the finger to the eagle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Those two posters, those were very popular. And Farrah Fawcett was a big one. What is this? Charlie's Angels?
It was just her in that red one-piece bathing suit.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm talking about, there was also like, Charlie's Angels were,
Oh, yeah,
kind of a big thing. Then. There's no truth to the rumor that I had a Gavin MacLeod from the Love Boat. But sorry, it's just a little joke, and it's barely even that. But yeah, Van Halen Fair Warning. Let me tell you what I like about that. Okay, because I don't know if you kids, and I will probably only bring this up once or 500 times during the course of this podcast, especially when we're talking Van Halen. I am listed in the credits of the Van Halen Encyclopedia. I am. Look it up. And so here's what I like about Fair Warning.
Do you kids want to know what he had to do to get listed in the credits of the?
I needed the money. I had to help the webmaster there because
There's more than one way to get backstage.
Fair Warning to me was a very dark, angry album, and I thought it was. There was a lot of friction between David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen.
There was
a lot of friction. And it came out on that album, but I think it had some of the Mean Street when that opening is amazing.
Great
Unchained,
great song. Both those songs are great. That whole album is really good, man.
Dude, there's a little bit of experimental stuff on there. Anything that sounded weird was Eddie, because Eddie had a little bit different. He was a different cat, and so, but he had a very, very much. This was his album. And most guitar players say that this is their favorite Van Halen album. But, it's definitely probably my favorite Roth era Van Halen. So that was my number one. So, Chris, you get to tell us.
My number one, this album.
It's Air Supply, isn't it?
Hall & Oates.
I'm all out of love. Hey, Lan, I like me some Hall & Oates.
I do not.
I do.
But this album was in my vehicle constantly in the player from 81 until, and I wasn't even driving in 81, but I was constantly listening to this when I could get Kiss off my player because I was a huge Kiss freak.
I remember that.
But Bob Seger, 9 Tonight, live album, one of the best live albums.
That's one of the ones I was going to list that didn't make. 9 Tonight is one of the best Bob Seger albums that's out there.
You've got two live albums that are both monumental and great. Live Bullet and then 9 Tonight. But 9 Tonight, it's got so many good songs on it, and the album is so good.
Yep.
And I don't even remember.
And the live production on it is just
it's unbelievable.
Really good.
It really is good. But dude, I've got a lengthy list of albums here that were still influential in my life.
Yeah.
Fair Warning is on this list.
You know what? And we're going to talk about those. But first, we're going to take a little break.
Man, I hate it when you're in control.
Okay, we're back. So you were saying you hate it when I'm in control?
Yeah.
Please don't take that. If you're just now tuning in, that's not the way it means.
He's like that. What is that? Rip Torn on the Larry Sanders Show. It's the best show we've ever done. He's like that producer.
Yeah, it's the best show we've ever done. Rip Torn. The guy had one character that he ever did in every movie.
I know, he was great.
He was great, though.
Men in Black. He was great. Go get him, Tiger.
Go get him. So you've probably, if you've been listening, you've heard our top 5 albums of 1981. But what made it so hard was the fact that it's just an embarrassment of riches on good music that came out that year. So, Chris, give us your almost made it.
Almost made the list.
Mm-hmm.
The Cars, Shake It Up.
Oh, How did that not end up
You know
on
I'm a
mine?
huge Cars fan.
I love the Cars.
Man, I like people that did their own thing, and they did their own thing.
They did.
Robert Palmer, I love Robert Palmer just because he didn't sell out. He did his Billy Idol. He didn't sell out. Did his own thing, man. Awesome.
So, anybody in any other albums you had on the list?
I got a ton.
Let's go, dude. Come on.
Well, I was waiting on you.
Okay. Okay. We're going to toss a couple back and forth there. Okay. Mob Rules, Black Sabbath.
Yeah, good album.
Mob Rules. Martin Birch, producer. Actually, I touched on this a little bit earlier in there, talking about how the previous year Ozzy and Sabbath had kind of split ways. Actually, a couple of years before, and this was the second Ronnie James Dio era album, and that was just a scorcher. That first one, they had Heaven and Hell, was just landmark, and today still holds up as a hard rock and metal album.
Yep.
But Martin Birch, producer, is one of the reasons why heavy metal sounds like it does today.
Well, I like that. I do like that album.
Yep.
Here's one for you. This will bring back some memories, and it's going to sound funny with this list.
Yeah.
But Beauty and the Beat. The Go-Go's.
No, dude.
The Go-Go's. I mean, that was huge.
That was good pop
and they were
music.
All hot.
And they were
and they could play music.
And there's that, and they could play music. They could actually play music.
Got the Beat. I don't know where it ended up on the charts, but it was huge that summer. That whole song, that whole album was huge.
They hit huge when they hit. Mm-hmm. Journey Escape.
Yep, it's on my list.
Journey Escape.
Journey was big back then.
That's not my favorite Journey album.
No, mine either.
But you cannot underestimate how huge that album was.
Yep, it was.
So.
Foreigner 4.
Also on my list here.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, there's a couple of times it ended up in the top 5.
And mine too. And I kept looking at it. I was going, but there's so many good albums this year. I mean, we're going to go through this list, and there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of them there.
Here's one that really should have made my list, but I could only choose 5. Don't Say No.
Billy Squier. Also on my... Okay, look. Billy Squier, for you, those of you who don't know, let me tell you the sad story of Billy Squier. Billy Squier in 1981 was everywhere. Mm-hmm. That Don't Say No album is huge. Still to this day, I have never not had a copy of that ever since it came out.
Me either.
Lonely is the Night is my favorite Billy Squier song ever.
Motions and Motions, mine.
That's a good one. That came off of that next album you did. But in the age of music video, someone talked him into doing one in 1984 that basically ruined his career.
What was it?
Rock Me Tonight. And if you go back and watch the video, you'll see why. It was just a bad idea. They put him in a pink tube top and had him, or a tank top, and had him trying to dance, and it was just not a good thing. It was not. It wasn't rock and roll. What I'm saying.
Maybe that's why I don't know the video. Because
it was a career ender for Billy. It literally was.
For you?
Yeah, I think I got one. Face Dances, The Who. The Who is something I came into later in life.
That's me. I mean, I was going to say that as far as putting it on this list, I couldn't put it on this list because I didn't understand the Who at that time.
No, I didn't either. But I'm saying now, when I go back and look at this now,
great album.
And like I said, at the top, this is 15. Like my top 5 was 15-year-old me. There would be a lot of things in there that if it wasn't. High and Dry, Def Leppard.
You didn't wait for me to go.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry.
You took 2, so I took 2.
You get to do. In fairness, get you 2.
High and Dry was on my list, but that's not one of my 2 because you took that one.
Okay.
So, Belladonna.
Stevie Nicks. Big album.
Yep.
It's kind of her first really big non-Fleetwood Mac album.
And here's the other one. I Love Rock and Roll. Joan Jett.
Yep.
That song was huge. I mean, everybody was jamming that.
Yep. My favorite Joan Jett song, Bad Reputation. I like that.
Mine is I hate myself for loving you.
That's a good one, too.
Just for the start when she's in those black leather pants with her ass to the camera. Woo. Dude, let me tell you something, man. I know she probably swings the other way, but I always.
Oh, there's no doubt.
I had a thing for Joan Jett.
Yeah.
That is the only.
It's a tough girl thing, isn't it?
That is the only concert where I've acted a complete spaz fool. And Butch has been to a ton of concerts with me. We've been going to concerts since 1980 together.
Yep.
And you can ask him. I have very little emotion. I'm listening to the music.
That's me too. You and I, people would think that we hated the act when we're just taking it in.
Joan Jett opened for Robert Plant, and I acted a complete fool. She was. I just love her. I love her.
Okay, I got somebody else on the list that you probably love too. Pat Benatar, Precious Time.
Oh, I love Pat Benatar. I don't have her on this list, but literally, I went and saw. She opened for the karaoke band named Journey now.
The band formerly known as Journey. Yeah,
it's karaoke. I couldn't deal with that. But I got free tickets.
I was there at that very show, and her husband were so cool.
Yeah, they were cool, and she sat there. I mean, she can't. She's older.
Yeah,
she can't move around the stage like she used to could.
She can still sing though.
But she can damn sure sing. Man.
She can still sing
awesome.
though. Yep. What you got next?
Stanton Hampton.
Dude,
Sammy Hagar.
Oh,
Sammy Hagar. That was huge. I mean, don't get it messed up, because I am not a Van Hagar fan. I never have been. As soon as David Lee Roth left the band, I basically quit buying albums.
We will discuss this on our Van Halen episode. Spoiler alert: we're going to have a Van Halen episode.
But I just, man, they had some great tunes. Do not get it messed up. They had some great tunes with Sammy Hagar, but I literally could not support the idea.
Well,
I couldn't do it.
Okay, just to put this out here, here's my take on Van Hagar. And you know I'm a huge Van Halen fan.
We both are.
Yep. The Hagar-led version of Van Halen was Sammy Hagar with a really good backing band.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what it was. And so I don't even look at them as Van Halen. I look at them as Van Hagar, as you know, Sammy singing with the world's best band behind him, you know. Yep. And that's the way that I view it. And I know a lot of people will disagree with us, and that's okay. It's okay to be wrong. So.
Here's another one for you that I think it's the last one on my list that we have not mentioned. But you got to mention it here because it wasn't huge and influential with me. Mm-hmm. But I just remember thinking what I thought when I saw them, and that was Too Fast for Love, Motley Crue.
First album.
It was their first album,
and it was raw, and it's good.
But the makeup they had on their face and all that, I'm like, dude, your Kiss want to be, been trying to be Kiss, man. You can't be
Kiss. And Kiss was trying to be Alice Cooper, but we won't go down that rabbit hole.
Dude, literally, that was my first concert. Was Kiss in 1979. I was 12 years old.
That's a good first show.
My parents put me in a car with 3 16-year-olds and a 14-year-old, Lance Howe.
Oh, no.
Because that was Mike Sanders' uncle.
Yes, I remember.
Yep. But we all went to Pine Bluff to see Kiss, and guess who opened for them and got booed off the stage?
Who was that?
Johnny Cougar and the Zones.
Oh,
which was John Cougar Mellencamp later in life, and the Kiss crowd wasn't ready for.
I don't about Jack and Diane. Yeah, I don't think they were ready for all that.
No, they weren't ready for that.
I have one last one to bring up. Triumph, Allied Forces.
You know, my brother was a huge Triumph fan, and I couldn't tell you one song they wrote today.
Oh, dude.
I have not listened to it. So you're going to turn me on to some Triumph.
Dude, I love Triumph. Triumph is one of their early. You would love some of their early stuff.
I probably
you
would.
really would. They're a 3-piece band from Canada, so there's some
there's some similarities there's to another 3-piece band from Canada.
I wonder who that could be. Anyway, well, dude, I had fun with this one. This is you and I apparently could probably go on. We have been recording for about 40 minutes just on this one.
That's really
right
awesome,
here.
though.
So,
just for the record, every morning on the way to school, when I couldn't drive and Butch could, he had an 8-track in his car, and we listened to Rush 2112 every morning going to school.
We did. And then right in the middle, because that whole suite of songs, basically side one of 2112 is like 21 minutes. And, 8 tracks had 4 channels on them, and you could only hold about 10 minutes worth of music on it. So right in the middle, it would fade out, click to the next track, and then fade back into the music.
Yeah.
But yes, every morning, blowing out my factory 1970s vintage, the 76 Ford Granada.
Black
Ford. And folks, just to let you know, it was a 2-door.
It was a coupe.
It was a coupe.
And it
had a T-shift in the floor.
And it was awesome.
But if you got it up to 55 miles an hour, it would start to shake. So, yeah, there's that.
It was wheels.
It was wheels.
You young people don't understand that, but back then having wheels was it.
Did you know, what's it? What's this thing with these kids today? What's this thing with these kids? Someone was talking, Debbie and I was talking about this, but even years ago.
Debbie's his wife, by the way.
Debbie is my wife, yes. Not your, just so you guys know, Cindy is his wife. Yeah. Debbie is my wife. But we were talking about how these kids don't want to get their driver's license.
I don't understand it.
That was our freedom. At 14 years old, you better believe I had my learner's permit.
Yep, I did too.
And any chance to drive, I would. And man, with the day I turned 16, they didn't see me anymore after that. Nope. I was gone.
I literally had to force my son to go get his on his 16th birthday, like right around his 16th birthday. I'm just like, dude, and my son is not a dumbass for sure. But I couldn't believe it. I'm just like, what is wrong with you? I don't get it.
I don't know. I just don't get these
Maybe
kids.
That's a story for another time.
It's another show. No, we're not going to go negative like that all the time.
Maybe.
Again, we might because we're two old men and we
are Gen X.
We are Gen X and proud of it. You know, I was looking at that. You and I are on the older end of Gen X.
We are.
We're barely not boomers. My brother, who's 5 years older than me, would be a boomer.
I guess my brother would be too.
Monty would be.
Monty's a different story.
Monty is a unique cat, dude. I love Monty Curtis. Monty Curtis was in my wedding. Monty Curtis, we all lived together for a while.
We did.
Which was an experience that we'll talk around maybe around Halloween.
I don't think we're going to talk around any of that.
No, maybe around Halloween.
No, we're not going to talk around any of that.
Okay.
There's some incriminating evidence in there.
The statute of limitations has not maybe run out on some
I don't
of these.
know about Arkansas, so we're not.
I know. Well, Chris, man, thanks for being here. We got to come back and do this again.
Man, I can do this anytime.
Well, we are.
It's awesome.
We have to. We've already committed to doing this podcast, and we're going to do it. We're going to be rich and famous and travel the world, or maybe down to Valonia for some heat lamp chicken.
Some what?
Some heat lamp chicken.
I don't eat chicken anyway. Why would I eat it under a heat lamp? That's just hot. Is that Nashville hot chicken? Is that how they do it?
No, I'm just talking.
Put you under a heat lamp while you eat it.
I don't know. Folks, thanks for tuning in. If you've stayed to this point, you really need to get a life. You seriously. I mean, you need some help.
What's today? Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
AMF, guys.
Yep. Later, haters.